All right, my friends. Welcome back to All Cars Reacts. It is time for a new Motorweek Retro Review reaction. This week, I have chosen the 1998 Ford Escort ZX2. Now, I'm doing this one purely for me because I really liked this car. It just, I wasn't in the right place to buy it, but I absolutely would have when it was brand new. So I thought this one would be fun. This is not on the Motorweek channel. This is coming to us courtesy of Hondata97. I'll try to provide a link to the original video here for you to go check that out and check out his channel. Tons of good stuff on there. But as always, it's you and me. Going to sit down and have a little conversation with each other and reminisce a little bit about 27 years ago. Make yourself comfortable in that comfy chair. Grab a beverage of choice. It is the morning, and so yes, it is coffee. I do drink coffee all the time, so I hope you enjoy this. But yeah, come on and trip down memory lane with me.
Motorweek, television's original automotive magazine. Your host for Motorweek, John Davis.
Well, hello and welcome again to Motorweek. We're glad to have you with us. With America's youth becoming more independent and affluent, designing cars for younger buyers has become an important part of the auto industry's marketing strategy, especially since many of today's trend-driven Generation Xers would rather die than be seen in their father's whatever, no matter how good it is. Well, Ford's way of dangling its venerable Escort in front of these cutting-edge buyers is to recreate it as the Escort ZX2. But is this truly an Escort coupe for today's younger buyer, or just an old idea in trendy clothes?
So let's talk about styling. I love this car. I really, really do. Because we're reminiscing a little bit. If you haven't heard me go on and on about my car history before, back in '95, I graduated from college, I got married, and my wife's car died, and we had to buy something. And it came down between a Pontiac Sunfire and a Dodge Neon. And we ended up with the Neon, which was really fun for about 70,000 miles. This came out a little bit later. And I've always felt that if the timing had worked and it had come down between, say, the Neon, the Sunfire, or this, I absolutely would have gotten this. Now, we had a two-door Neon. She wanted a two-door, and I thought this was better in almost every single way. Styling, I love it. There's a little bit on the back haunch back there, around the C-pillar. There's a little bit of Pontiac from this angle. Up front, you almost get a little bit of the Lexus SC, and where I thought it looked awkward on the Lexus, with the bigger headlights and the two smaller ones set inside, here, I think it looked great. Basically, I think this car looks really fantastic. Not upscale, not premium, not special, right? Nothing more than a reskin of a relatively pedestrian economy car, but I think it looks terrific.
The truth is that while the ZX2 may wear an Escort badge, they share few major components. It is built on the same basic chassis as the Escort sedan and wagon, but the ZX2's Taurus-like body panels are unique. The same goes for what's under the skin. The ZX2 is motivated by the 2-liter 16-valve 4-cylinder Z-Tech engine borrowed from the Contour. With new variable valve timing, it generates 130 horsepower, 20 more than a stock Escort, and 127 pound-feet of torque. Transmission choices include a well-matched 5-speed manual with rubbery shift linkage or a 4-speed automatic. We naturally chose the manual.
So, at the time, I didn't have a problem with this engine. I thought it was quite a bit quieter, for example, than the Neon engine. No, looking back with some hindsight, and if you know more than me, correct me in the comments below, but the problems that Ford had with the Contour, part of that I attribute to this engine. The Z-Tech might have been fine, but just over my life, I've kind of got this opinion it wasn't great. Now, again, We had a neon, which blew a head gasket at 70,000 miles. So could have been better than that. And, you know, a 5-speed or a 4-speed automatic, competitive for what it had, you know, for competitive with its competitors at the time. And let's not forget the neon had a 3-speed. So
with it ran a best 0 to 60 time of 8.2 seconds. The quarter mile ran out in 16.5 seconds at 84 miles per hour. But the price of that quickness was more vibration than one would expect from Ford's European Z-Tech power plant. Compared to most Escorts, however, the ZX is a mid-range powerhouse with maximum punch between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM. Handling has received a similar upgrade, with the front McPherson struts and rear quadrillink suspension beefed up and stiffened. That, plus an added rebound spring in the front struts, gives the ZX a sharper, more balanced feel than last year's Escort GT. It shows up best on bumpy back roads, where the car, despite jostling the occupants a bit, sticks to bumps that would put other Escorts off into the weeds. It's a lot of fun. Its sharp handling and rough character encourage you to give it a good thrashing. Less encouraging was brake feel. The front disc rear drums with optional anti-lock delivered good average stops from 60 of 129 feet, but the soft, vague pedal feel did not inspire confidence. Still, the ZX2 is the most entertaining small car that we've driven this year.
Interesting. I think there's a lot to unpack there. So it's a fun car to drive. It's tossable. Brake performances, you know, it's all right, but not great pedal feel. And that tells me they didn't sweat the details, right? They didn't take it that 10/10ths to try to make it better. They got to a point of, well, that's good enough. The thing that jumps out at me is when they said that the way it handled on the road, that it jostles the passengers. Okay, so you can kind of forgive that. It's supposed to be a more sporty car, so you end up with a suspension that's a little bit tauter, and more of those motions are going to come through into the cabin. But then saying that it would take a base Escort, you know, those same bumps would put a base Escort into the weeds. Really? I feel like you might be exaggerating a little bit there, but let's take a look. You know, I have no problems. I have no problems with anything 0 to 60 quarter mile. It seems competitive. It seems fine, right? Just more entertaining than a regular Escort. Let's see the interior.
But in today's car market, accommodations are as important as performance. To that end, Ford has given the ZX2 its own interior that they hope will appeal to stylish young buyers. Ford calls the cluster housing asymmetrical. We prefer the term lopsided. Nonetheless, the dash is a very efficient layout with a reasonably comprehensive gauge package. Seats are also unique to ZX2 with firm, supportive, comfortable cushions. Shared with other Escorts is the center integrated control panel. Here, ergonomics is king for climate and stereo controls. A CD changer is offered in lieu of an in-dash unit. Rear seat room is generous by coupe standards, and a 60/40 split folding seat back is included. Now, some muscle is required to raise the heavy trunk lid, but the non-intrusive gas struts leave a healthy 11.8 cubic feet of space. But the big numbers, the one...
Okay. So let's kind of work backwards from there. 11.8 cubic feet. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I think that's okay, especially because you've got the 640 split. If you think about this, and they said it at the beginning, this is tailored more, aimed for younger buyers, then that's probably really reasonable. I mean, what are they going to use it for? You know, it might be them, it might be a partner, it might maybe a young family. That's what we would have been. Groceries, a couple of overnight bags. I kind of want to pick on the trunk a little bit, but not too bad. But using gas struts, I absolutely commend that. It is more expensive. Everything I've ever heard is that it's more expensive, which is why they've backed back off of it. They've just found better ways to package the goosenecks into the trunk. I like that they did that. It showed, for lack of a better way of putting it, it showed a level of actually caring about it. Rear seat space is fine. Front seat, ooh. So, what the exterior giveth, the interior taketh away. I commend Ford for that integrated panel. that they used on the, what was that, the third generation or second total redesign of the Taurus. Nobody else is doing anything like that. And it was somewhere around here, I've got a book talking about the development of the ovoid Taurus, and they kept bringing up that integrated control panel, how difficult it was. And then they started using it here. I've never been a fan. I commend them for doing it and for doing something different and being different. I just don't particularly like it. And I like symmetry. And I have criticized multiple cars over the years for lack of symmetry, and that whole concept that you've got an instrument cluster that just kind of droops like it's been injected with Novocaine, right? Don't love it. Lots of cheap plastic. Looks like the vents under the in the passenger side, looks like they forgot them and just kind of stuffed them on there. So ergonomically, information presented, I think it's fine, and probably the materials, at least as I recall them, were competitive with anything else in the price range, but not their best effort on the interior, in my opinion. In styling, in terms of styling. And I seem to remember the seats were really comfortable.
On the price tag turned out to be smaller than expected. Base price for the cool model Escort ZX2 is only $13,145. Our heavily optioned hot test car costs $17,040, and that includes the sports trim package. Now, to us, the Ford Escort ZX2 isn't so much a slick urban runabout for jaded Generation Xers as it is a blast from the past. A real mid-'80s pocket rocket with style, performance, and enough rough edges to keep your driving interesting. Not a new idea, but a good one, and one that every generation of drivers should have a chance to enjoy.
What an interesting end to the video and how they put that. Price-wise, I think it was competitive. I don't remember exactly. I think we paid $12,500, something like that, for our neon. And that was a pretty basic neon. So this would have been about the same. Once dealers maybe gave you a little bit off, or the manufacturer put some cash on the table. So all in all, when I looked at these back in the day, there was zero doubt in my mind that if the timing had worked out slightly differently and we could have waited until this car was available, this is what we would have gotten. I absolutely adored this car. Is it my most desired car of 1998? Probably not. Is it even my most desired cheap two-door? No. The NX2000, the Mazda MX-3, the Saturn SC series, those really just were more fun. But this was a little bit bigger. And when you compared it with, say, a Sunfire or a Neon, I thought this was overall a better looking and better built car. Now, what would be fun is a comparison test of this, say, with a two-door Civic. I think the Civic would crush it. But I still like this car. I think the styling looked good. I liked what Ford was trying to do in the 90s. And a lot of my opinion of what Ford was doing in the 90s and into the 2000s was, good exterior styling, asymmetrical interiors with lots of cheap plastic. But it all worked, and it ended up making some really good, fun products. I won't say they were all wonderfully reliable, right? But they were making some fun products that had personality. Okay, think about the Contour, think about this. At least they were producing things with feeling. And so that's what I have about this one. I liked it. I still do. I still think it looks pretty fresh. And, this kind of video just makes me wish that our cars had personality again, especially for cheap prices. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments below.